Hey, welcome back. And we are still talking about the death of Lazarus. And we are going to look at the second part of the scripture that I said we were going to share. So, the last time we looked at Lazarus's death, reading from the book of St. John, chapter 11, verse 1 to 6. Now today we're going to look a little bit further, right? And we're going to start from the 11th verse, yes, in St. John 11. And I have my phone still, so I'm going to read, and then we're going to stop, and then we're going to chat, we're going to talk, right? All right. So reading from verse 11, St. John 11, verse 11 and following. After he had said this, he went on to tell them, "Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I am going there to wake him up." This is Jesus talking to his disciples, right? Continuing, verse 12 now. His disciples replied, "Lord, if he sleeps, he will get better." Jesus had been speaking of his death, but his disciples thought he meant natural sleep. So then he told them plainly, "Lazarus is dead. And for your sake, I am glad I was not there, so that you may believe. But let us go to him." All right, I'm going to stop right there. 11 to 15. All right. Now, if you did not see the first video, please check out the first video, all right, that I made on this Lazarus here, and I'm gonna put it in the description area, so you can link it, or I'll try and put it somewhere, just so that you can see it. So just click in the description area and you'll find the link. Okay. All right, so we are looking at the death of Lazarus, how people perceive it, how we perceive things going on in our lives, and so forth. In the previous video, I was mentioning that Jesus said to his disciples, when he got word that Lazarus was sick, he said to them, "This illness or this sickness is not unto death," right? But no, at this point, he's telling them, well, first of all, he was trying to say to them, Jesus was trying to say to them that, he's sleeping. He said in the 11th verse, "Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I am going there to wake him up." Jesus was speaking to them in heavenly language, in basically with a heavenly understanding, for them to realize that, hey, Lazarus, our brethren, he's just sleeping. They weren't clicking, the disciples, and they weren't getting it in the spiritual meaning that Jesus was speaking. So they was like, "But if the man asleep, where you are go for wake him up for? Him we alright?" Then Jesus had to come down now to their level and basically come out plain and speak on their level of understanding, and just say plainly in verse 14, it says, "So then he," which is Jesus, "told them plainly, Lazarus is dead." Jesus, the Son of God, had to change his frequency then, put it like that. He had to come down to these men who were not understanding the higher meaning of what he was saying, and just say plainly, Lazarus is dead. And that was just Jesus' way of helping them to understand. Just like how sometimes, think about it, sometimes you're speaking to some people about certain things, and it's like you're losing them. They are not understanding what you're saying, basically. They are not at that level. And so sometimes, you have to break things down for people to understand. All right? And that happens in various spheres of life and in various situations. All right? But it's just to help us to understand. A part in the scripture there it says, if I have told you of heavenly things and you do not believe me, if I have told you of earthly things and you don't believe me, how can I tell you of heavenly things? So sometimes we really have to get in the word, and this includes me too. I mean, we all need to study more, we all need to learn more about our great creator, because a lot of what we have been taught there's so much more to God than some of what we have been taught. And a lot of persons who get revelations from God, they get it when they sought God for themselves, when they came out of the confines of what people expected them to do and expected them to be. They came out of that kind of box, that kind of limitation. And sometimes when you seek to walk with God, sometimes people don't get you, they don't understand you, they think that you're going off the walls and so forth. But then again, to most church people or most religious folks in Jesus's day were actually not with him. When you really think about it, when you really read the scriptures and you look, the people who were mostly against Jesus, mostly criticized Jesus, who were they? Who were they? They were those persons who were high in the religious strata of life back then. It's amazing to see that sometimes things that happen now, even in churches, that are clearly ungodly and clearly not have no spiritual soundness in them, that it was happening back then too. It was happening in Jesus' day. But sometimes, I guess, because we are so used to the practice of what we do or what is expected or what is being done, is like for some persons that they can't break away from it, or you dare not do this and you dare not do that. Anybody have you ever had any experience like that where you want to serve God, or you got a revelation, you get an understanding from God, even if you didn't act on it right away, but God comes back to you, the Spirit of God comes back to you about this thing, and you know that is God, and you see it, and you know to be true. Whereas, especially if God reveals something to you that is happening that ought not to be happening in the church, and people just go along with it. They just keep going along with it because it's the norm or because it's accepted. You accept things that are on the lower level, or it's on a level where God is saying, no, this is not how it is supposed to be. So Jesus had to come down, had to bring down his language, had to bring down his way of communication, so that these disciples could, get an understanding on their level. All right, but as we read further, we realize that Jesus rose Lazarus from the dead, and so on and so forth. There's a whole heap that could come out of this one passage of scripture, a whole heap. But I just thank God for speaking to me about these things, some of these things here. And I really came and shared it with you because it's not the first time that God has opened my eyes to certain things in the scripture. And it's strange enough to that for this scripture, it actually rested in my mind soon after praying about certain situations, personal situations. And I realized that, or I just was reminded, not realized, because I know that God is with me, and I'm so confident and I'm so at peace. I know that God will never leave me, he will never forsake me. And so I am so I'm just so jubilant about that. I might not say it all the time, I might not, but I'm really thankful to God, and I'm just looking forward to growing in God and to be at peace, and for God to be at peace with me. That's the most important thing for me, especially besides, making sure that my children are okay, that I do my part in this world of helping and of working with children and so forth, because I know that those things are given to me, and it doesn't matter what anybody does, I always have to do that. It always comes to me because it's ordained, it's divinely directed, so it will always flourish, so I'm gonna stop here because I feel as if I'm I'm starting to just express myself and just to go on and go on and go on and go on. But thank you so much if you stayed here. The essence of this part of the video here, part 2, talking about the death of Lazarus, is just to say that Jesus Christ, in this section of the scripture that we read on this video here, St. John 11 verse 11 to 15, really was trying to communicate with his disciples with a heavenly meaning, with a spiritual meaning, but his disciples could not follow him, and so he changed gear and put it into their language, so that on a frequency that they could understand. And so it teaches us that sometimes, if you have a revelation from God, if you have some understanding from God, and you know this to be true, because in the spirit there's no lying. In the spirit there's no lie. In the spirit, once you operate in the spirit, once you are humble and you are truthful in the spirit, there's no lie. There's no lie, right? He had to bring it to them on a level that they could understand. All right, so that's that. I hope that y'all will share your point of view on this topic here, and I look forward to hearing from you guys. All right, so God bless you. If you are so inclined, I encourage you to subscribe, and I will see you next time. Also turn on your notification bell. All right, so have a good one. Until then, God bless you. Bye bye.